Welcome back. I think we fixed our cam follower issue, so we're going to jump right into it and get that thing installed. Before we jump in, what I did was, so this is the hole that was in question. It measured out to right about 0.865 on the OD, which is real close to 7/8 of an inch. So I went and picked up a 7/8 drill bit, and this area here you can just fit a drill into, and it's pretty well square. So I drilled that hole out to 7/8 of an inch, and then Rudy had some 7/8 OD by 3/4 ID bushing stock. So I drilled that out, and that bushing will now not slide in, but lightly tap into place. And then I put some red Loctite on the outside of that bushing to help keep it in place once it cures. So we're going to go ahead and try and put this together, and we'll see what happens. So put you guys inside, and then we'll get you a light so you can see what's going on. Just like that. Get my pieces, because you know me, I can never be prepped and ready when the time comes. So the first thing we're going to do is put some grease on the shaft for the cam followers, and we'll slide that through the it would be the clutch side of the rear case. Then there's a spacer washer that goes on, a spacer, and then your first cam follower goes on. Again, make sure everything's got a good coat of grease on it. So that's the first one. And we have another spacer. Then another cam follower. Just like that. And then we have our spring. Another cam follower. And then a spacer and the final cam follower again. Oops. A spacer. Now I'm anticipating on having to kind of tap this shaft into place, and I'll have to keep an eye on the bushing to make sure it doesn't get pushed out the other side. Make sure that the hole for the set screw is pointed straight down. And we'll tap it into place, looking for that hole. All right. Need a brass drift and a screwdriver to put up into the hole. See how we're looking as far as the hole on the bottom here. think that's about it. And that bushing stayed in place, which is good. Like I said, it wasn't a press fit, but it definitely wasn't just a slip fit, so it should stay with that Loctite in there. So, okay. So now we have everything that's supposed to be where it is. I'm just checking the alignment of some stuff. Looks like it's pretty well aligned. Okay. Well, we'll finish that up with a couple of expansion plugs and tighten that set bolt. And the cam followers are in place. Okay guys, we got the cam follower in, and actually before we continue, I ended up taking it back out, and I want to show you why. That thrust washer that I originally put on this side over here, I had to put over here because these two cam followers were not centered on the holes for the push rods. And when I took that thrust washer out from this side and put it over here, then these ones weren't in alignment. So what I had to do was find another washer, and I happened to have one that fit that shaft that was just thick enough to center everything appropriately on this side, where that other thrust washer, the original one, centered everything appropriately on that side. So that's good. Got that all set up and ready to go. I'm going to cover these up really quick just to kind of protect everything. But we're going to go ahead and attempt to get the camshaft installed. Now the cam gear, there's two ways you can remember which way it goes back in. I mean, obviously the best thing to do is take pictures with your cell phone before you take everything apart. But the slanted teeth point forward towards the outside of the case, or the best way to remember is your timing mark has to go towards the inside. So I laid some towels down in here to try and get everything, keep everything protected. And we are going to go ahead and slide this, see if we can do it this way here without wrecking something. Slide this in place. Try to think of the best way to do this without wrecking everything. It's like I need to let me try doing something here. I'm going to try putting the end caps on, the bearings. Now, I don't have any high tack on the gaskets because we have to see where we're at as far as shimming everything. Okay. That's going to be an issue. I should not have coated that. Okay. We're going to have to back up a minute. I put Gliptol in the opening of the where the camshaft bearings go, so I'm going to have to remove that, and then we'll try again. Okay, now that we got all the Gliptol cleaned out, I'm actually going to take a different approach. I was thinking about this, and let's see here. Try this way. The cam, when I took it out, has these thin thrust washers They're like a shim washer on either end. When I took it out of whichever tractor this came out of, I don't know if this came out of the 27 or the 28, but it had 2 on the clutch side and none on the flywheel side. So what I'm going to do before we put the gear in there is I'm going to put the cam in here by itself without the gear, tighten it down, and see how everything rotates. See what kind of end play we have. And then go from there. That way we don't have to fight with the gear. Where's my bolt holes? There we go. We'll tighten everything down and see where we're at as far as adjustment goes. Tighten this side down. Okay. That seems pretty loose. So I've already got this end cap, or this end has 2 shims in it. Now I've got 2 shims here. So, whoops, had 2 shims. So let's pull this end cap off and we'll see where we're at. Now I could check the end play on this with a digital caliper or with a dial indicator, but I'm just going to go by feel for now. Okay, we've got 2 shims in there. Or thrust washers, I should say. I can already tell you that's going to be too tight. Okay, let's pull one out and see how it does with just one on this side. Trial and error, trial and error. Okay, let's go again. That's probably going to be just about perfect. We'll see when we get it tightened up. See, these are the fine details that nobody shows because it's time consuming. I can feel just a slight bit of movement back and forth. It turns nicely. I think that's where we're going to be set. Just looking at the alignment of the cam lobes, everything looks good there. Okay. Just a very slight ticking back and forth. That should be plenty. So now we have to remove the bearing caps again, put the gear in there, and then try to figure out how we're going to get the gear on. So I think I have an idea though, at least to get it most of the way on. Stay tuned. Okay, here comes the cam gear. Make sure we got the timing mark visible. There we go. We got plenty of grease on the journal here. Let's get a little bit more. Just so everything slides together nicely. Okay. Now that I've got the grease all over my hand, okay, I've got it started. So what I'm going to do, first I'm going to wipe the grease off my hand. I'm going to install the bearing on this side. Just get it started. So we can hold it. This is actually going to be the first of 2 attempts. Because what's going to happen is I'm going to get everything pressed together, then pull the end cap, the bearing caps off, and then we'll pull them back off to put high tack on the gasket for them. Okay, so here's my plan. I'm just going to slowly tighten the end caps, and it should just draw that gear on. Oh yeah, it's working just fine. Okay, so now we'll keep an eye on this side. If I could hang on to my tools. Kind of go evenly. I go about a turn on one bolt and a turn on the other because there's a bolt on either side of these end caps. Okay, almost there, I think. Okay, now we can pull these out. Oh, that's beautiful. Beautiful. Now about the only thing I want to do, I'm just looking at the, I'm going to go a little bit further with the gear. So how do I want to do this? Let's see. I can't use a punch for that. What if I take the cap off of this side and drive the cam with a brass drift, drive the cam into the gear a little bit farther, because it's going to be captured in place by that other bearing on the other side. Just trying to think outside the box, fellas. Like that. Maybe I can just give it a couple of taps with this brass drift and a hammer. Okay, that might be just enough. It did move slightly. Okay, that's not exactly the way I thought it was going to work. Can I get these in there, maybe? Oh, let's clean the junk off of them. Can I maybe go like this? And like this, maybe? Just to keep the cam in place, or the gear in place. There we go. We're flush on that side. Now let's reinstall the cap on the other side here. It's a tedious process. Oh, wait a minute. Forgot my shim. Getting ahead of myself. Getting too excited. Now we can go. Okay. I'm off work quite a bit this week, so I'm going to try and get quite a bit of stuff done on this. Once the cam is in, we can put the crank in and the main bearing carriers, Then we can finish running the oil lines. Okay, that's tight. Put the oil pump in. Oh, that's beautiful. You can't get much better than that. Oh, all right, folks. I'm going to put some high tack on it and call it good. The cam is done. We got to tighten these 2 clamp bolts, but that's it. So, all right. Okay, got a gasket made for the oil pump. We'll go ahead and slide that in place. There we go. And I forgot to grab the screen that goes down in the bottom here, but we will get that. Okay. Okay, got all the gaskets made. Tightened the 4 cap screws on the outside of the oil pump here. Now this gasket is for the oil pump gear cover plate. I ordered it specific from Deere because they are a specific thickness. They're 0.015 thick. It's a D302R. And let's see, I think it goes this way. Maybe. Let's find out here. I'm not going to put any sealer on it just because if I do have a leak, it's easy to get to. The flywheel's right here, so I can easily get to these and reseal that if I need to. But I don't want to put any extra anything on this until I know for sure. No, that's not right. Goes the other way. That's my fault. This way. There we go. If I could get the bolt to start here. What's going on? Okay, so that's there. This is our pickup screen. Goes in the bottom there, and we have a new screen installed. I will put some high tack on that. There's not much left in the bottom of this, so I'm just using my finger to get whatever's in there out. I'll just kind of smear it around with my fingers. Work around the gasket. This is some real sticky stuff, so a little bit more. The Squatch would say a little bit goes a long way, but when this stuff starts to dry out, more of it sticks to your hands and your gloves than what sticks to the gasket, so I'm not too worried about having a little excess on there. Put it over the studs. Just like that. And we'll take the sticky gloves off. There we go. And I should have a couple of nuts over here that I can clean up and a couple of washers. Okay, moving on. Okay, well, we're going to set the crankshaft in here. I've got plenty of padding and towels up on these edges so we don't bang anything up. But I just want to set it in there just so it's in, and then we got to try and figure out how to suspend it in the air so that we can get the main bearing carriers on either side to support it. Let's see, which way goes which? I want to make sure I pick it up correctly. It's heavy. Okay. I gotta move the camera here. Okay. That's about as good as we're gonna get right now. Whew, that's heavy. Okay. Whew. Crankshaft is in, except, well, it's in the case anyway. Okay. We've got the crankshaft in. The main bearings are bolted in. At least the lower halves are. I'm not going to do the upper halves yet because we are waiting on the felts that I'm having Olson's gaskets make. So when those arrive, well, we could set the shims up, but we're going to have to take everything back apart to do the okay, this is something I didn't plan for, but the way I did this was there we go. I suspended this crankshaft with a couple of straps on either end. And it's in time even, look at that. Now we got to get this strap out of the other side, which I think is going to be a challenge. We'll see. Oh, don't bang it around too much, Kenny. There we go. Double check it, make sure it's in time. Yep, it's in time. There we go. So I'll show you what I mean by having the crankshaft in time. There's a series of punch marks, and you can see I marked them with a paint marker to make everything easier to see. But we are in time. So that's good to go. Crankshaft is in, camshaft is in. We just got to get the bearings set up. So that might be a good place to stop for this video. Good progress. Okay guys, I can't be done. I'm making too good of progress. Things are going too well. So I'm going to put the governor drive gear in place. Just put a little bit of grease on the bearing here. Not much, just a little. And there is, if you look real close, there's a notch in the casting of the main case. That notch corresponds with a dowel in the, I guess this would be the journal, or the pin that mounts the gear to the case. So we're just going to slide it down into the case, mesh it with the crankshaft gear, put a little bit more grease inside here. Slide, and we might as well put some grease on here too. Slide this in place like such. Should go in. Come on now. Wonder if I need to give it a little tap. Should be vertical. This should catch the Yep, that should be it. Let me grab my brass. Oh, wait a minute. There's a thrust washer that goes between there. That's my fault. Thrust washer. Okay. Maybe if I get the brass hammer and just give it some taps, it'll go. I hope. Now I gotta find out where that pin is as far as the alignment goes. Well guys, that's going to do it for the last bit of progress for today. We got the camshaft in and shimmed. Got the oil pump in. We got the crankshaft in and timed to the camshaft. We got all of our oil lines in. We got our governor drive gear on. We got our cylinder block on. We've made a lot of progress. I'm excited. I still really don't want to finish cleaning the axles and the axle housings, but we have to. So once we get those clean, that's going to go to sandblast. You know, we're going to sandblast the insides of the axle housings, sandblast the axles, and then Gliptol, and then they're ready to go back together as well. Give you guys a size reference for the cylinders on this thing. You know, I got pretty big hands, so there they are. Anyhow, that's going to do it. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for wrenching with me, and we'll see you in the next one. It's getting exciting. Things are going back together.